Hey everybody. So I just wanted to follow up our lecture from 1.1 with a quick example. So this will be a pretty short one. So last time we talked about some of our basic vocabulary. So in particular, I want to go over this right-hand side, the population, the sample, data, parameter, statistics, and statistic, and a variable. This is stuff we are going to be doing. These are terms we're going to be using over and over again. So I want to make sure they are clear to us. So let's take a look at this document. There we go. So here's our example, excuse me. We have an insurance company that is wanting to determine the proportion of all medical doctors who have been involved in one or more malpractice lawsuits. So the company selects 500 doctors at random from a professional directory and determines the number in the sample who have been involved in a malpractice lawsuit. So we're just going to, in this example, identify each of those pieces. So I want to remind you again that I'm not going to ever ask you a vocabulary question like define the population. However, I might ask you to identify the population, something like this. This is the kind of question you might get on a quiz or an exam, where I have a little paragraph like this and ask you to identify each of the pieces from it. So let's just go through. The population. So remember our definition of population. This is the large group that we want to know something about. So in this case, they want to know something about all of the medical doctors. Okay. That's who they hope to know something about. And the parameter is the characteristic that they want to know about. It's a number that represents a characteristic about all of the doctors. In this case, the number would be a proportion, right? The proportion of all the medical doctors who have been involved in one or more malpractice suits. Okay, so the population is all the doctors, and the parameter is what proportion of them have been involved in one or more malpractice suits. That is difficult information to come by. There are a lot of doctors. Records are kept in different ways in different hospitals, in different states, in different cities, and so on and so forth. So it's often very difficult to actually get at that information. So instead, what they've done here is conducted a sample. They've done sampling, right? So the sample in this case is the 500 doctors that they went and spoke with, right? So they said that they selected 500 doctors at random from the professional directory. So that those 500 doctors are their sample. That's the group they actually go and talk to. And the statistic, right, is the same as the parameter. It's a number that represents something about a property or characteristic, but instead of the population, it's of the sample, right? So let me say that again. The parameter is a number that represents something about the population, a characteristic about the population. A statistic is a number that represents a characteristic of the sample. In this case, that number is going to be the proportion of doctors from their sample who have been in one or more malpractice suits. So maybe they go and ask those 500 doctors and 300 of them have been in one or more malpractice suits. Then we would have a proportion of 3/5 or 60%, right? So that would be our statistic. Remember, we hope the statistic estimates the parameter well, right? We didn't go ask every doctor, so it's hard to say if those numbers are exactly the same, and they're almost surely not exactly the same, but we hope that they're close. Okay. All right. So the variable. The variable is a concept. It is the thing that changes for each member of our population, and here the variable is whether or not a doctor has been involved in any malpractice lawsuits. And the data are the yes or no, answers from each doctor, right? So it's our response to that, or it's the results of sampling, right? The data are the result of sampling, and it's the answer to whatever that variable is. Okay, So that's our population, parameter, sample, statistic, variable, and data. Those are words we are going to hear a lot this quarter. So we want to make sure we understand what each of them is. All right, that'll be it for this example. I'll see you guys soon.